Eleanor Harding was the picture of grace. Her silk gowns whispered as she moved through her perfectly appointed mansion, a stark contrast to the dusty plains outside. Her days were filled with tea parties, charity events, and managing the household staff, all while maintaining a pleasant smile for her husband, Mr. Harding, the powerful railroad baron. But beneath the polished surface, a fire smoldered. She'd married him for security, for a life far removed from the poverty she'd known as a child. He'd provided that, showering her with jewels and servants, but the price was her freedom. She was a bird in a gilded cage, her wings clipped by societal expectations and her husband's controlling nature. Mr. Harding saw her as a beautiful ornament, something to display and admire. He didn't see the intelligence in her eyes, the steel in her spine, or the simmering resentment that grew with each passing day. He didn't understand that the railroad, his pride and joy, had also destroyed her family's livelihood, swallowing their land and dreams. Eleanor played the part of the dutiful wife, but every polite nod, every gracious smile, was a carefully constructed mask hiding her true intentions. She was waiting for her moment, and it was coming soon, cloaked in darkness and fueled by righteous anger. Under the cloak of a moonless night, a different Eleanor emerged. Gone were the silk gowns and delicate jewels. She wore dark denim pants, a sturdy wool shirt, and a black bandana that concealed the lower half of her face. She was no longer Mrs. Harding. She was the Nightingale, leader of a band of masked women known as the Black Widows. Their target, the Harding Northern Line, a train carrying a shipment of gold destined for the railroad's expansion. The women moved with practiced precision. Some disabled the engine, while others secured the guards. Eleanor, with her intimate knowledge of the train's layout, led the charge to the cargo car. Her movements were swift and sure, a stark contrast to the delicate steps she took at tea parties. Inside, they worked quickly, loading the gold onto waiting horses. Eleanor oversaw the operation, her voice a low, commanding whisper. "Hurry, sisters. We have what we came for. Let's leave Mr. Harding a little lighter in the pockets." As they rode away, the sound of the train whistle faded into the distance. The Nightingale had struck again, and the Harding Northern Line was left reeling. Eleanor felt a thrill course through her veins. This wasn't just revenge, it was liberation. The next morning, Mr. Harding was furious. The news of the robbery had spread like wildfire. He paced the length of his study, his face red with rage. "Incompetence! Utter incompetence!" he roared at his bewildered staff. Eleanor entered, feigning concern. "What's wrong, dear?" she asked, her voice laced with practiced sweetness. "Wrong? My train was robbed. Robbed Eleanor, and they made off with a fortune." He glared at her, but she met his gaze with innocent eyes. "Oh, how dreadful! Are you all right?" she asked, placing a comforting hand on his arm. Inside, she was fighting back a smile. "All right? No, I'm not all right. I want those bandits caught and brought to justice. I've hired the Pinkerton Detective Agency. They're the best in the business. They'll find them. You can be sure of that." As the days turned into weeks, Mr. Harding became increasingly agitated. He questioned his employees, tightened security, and spent hours poring over reports from the detectives. He started watching Eleanor more closely, his eyes filled with suspicion. He couldn't shake the feeling that someone close to him was involved. He just couldn't imagine who. Eleanor noticed the change in him. She knew she had to be more careful. The game had become more dangerous, and the stakes were higher than ever. Eleanor remembered her childhood, the rolling green hills that had once been her family's farm. She remembered the day the Harding Northern Line came through, tearing up the land, displacing her family, and leaving them with nothing. Her father, a proud man, had died of a broken heart, and her mother had succumbed to illness soon after, unable to cope with the loss of their home and livelihood. She was just a girl then, but she vowed revenge. She vowed to make Mr. Harding pay for what he had done. Marrying him was part of her plan, a way to get close, to learn his secrets, and to undermine his empire from within. The stolen gold wasn't just about revenge. It was about rebuilding what he had destroyed, about helping the families who had suffered the same fate as hers. She used the stolen money to buy back small plots of land, to provide food and shelter for the displaced, to give them a chance to start over. The Black Widows weren't just bandits. They were Robin Hoods in skirts, fighting for the forgotten and the downtrodden. And Eleanor, the polished wife of the railroad baron, was their leader, driven by a burning desire for justice. The memories of her past fueled her present, giving her the strength to continue her dangerous game. The Black Widows were a diverse group, united by their shared experiences of hardship and their desire for a better life. There was Maggie, a former saloon girl who had been cheated out of her earnings by a crooked gambler connected to the railroad. Sarah, a widowed farmer whose land had been seized when she couldn't pay the exorbitant rates the railroad charged to transport her crops. And then there was young Lily, orphaned when her parents died in a train accident, their claims for compensation ignored by the uncaring railroad company. Eleanor had found them, one by one, recognizing their pain and their potential. She offered them a chance to fight back, to reclaim their power, and to make a difference. She trained them, teaching them how to shoot, ride, and strategize. She instilled in them a sense of loyalty and camaraderie. They met in secret, in a hidden cave in the mountains, sharing stories and planning their next move. They were more than just a gang. They were a family, bound together by their shared struggles and their unwavering belief in Eleanor's leadership. Each woman brought her own unique skills and experiences to the table, making them a formidable force to be reckoned with. They trusted Eleanor with their lives, knowing that she would always put their needs first. They were ready to risk everything for her and for their cause. The Pinkerton detectives were getting closer. They had interviewed several railroad employees, and one of them had mentioned seeing a woman matching Eleanor's description near the train tracks shortly before the first robbery. The detective, a shrewd man named Mr. Davies, decided to pay Mrs. Harding a visit. He arrived at the mansion unannounced, catching Eleanor off guard. She managed to maintain her composure, offering him tea and engaging in polite conversation. But Mr. Davies's eyes were sharp, and he missed nothing. He noticed the calluses on her hands, unusual for a woman of her station. He observed the way she carried herself, with a quiet confidence that belied her delicate appearance. As he was leaving, he casually mentioned the robbery and asked if she had seen anything suspicious. Eleanor's heart skipped a beat. She forced a smile and said, "Oh, I'm afraid I wouldn't know anything about that. I spend most of my time here at the house." That night, the Black Widows planned another raid. Eleanor knew she was being watched, but she couldn't back down now. They targeted a train carrying payroll for the railroad workers. During the heist, a guard recognized Eleanor's eyes, even behind a mask. He lunged at her, knocking her to the ground. The other widows quickly subdued him, but the close call left Eleanor shaken. She knew her double life was on the verge of collapsing. A new face arrived in town, a ruggedly handsome lawman named Deputy Marshal Cole. He was investigating the train robberies, and his reputation preceded him. He was known for his sharp mind, unwavering determination, and a surprising sense of fairness. Eleanor first encountered him at the local market. He was helping an elderly woman carry her groceries, his kindness evident in his gentle smile. Their eyes met, and Eleanor felt a strange pull, a connection she hadn't anticipated. As they spoke, she found herself drawn to his honesty and his genuine desire to uphold the law. He, in turn, seemed intrigued by her intelligence and her quiet strength. He didn't treat her like a fragile flower, but as an equal, someone whose opinion mattered. Their paths continued to cross. He'd stop by the mansion for tea, engaging in witty banter with Eleanor while subtly probing for information about the robberies. Eleanor found herself torn. She was attracted to Cole, but she knew that if he discovered her secret, he would be duty-bound to arrest her. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset, Cole said, "These robberies, they're hurting a lot of good people. I just wish I understood what was driving them." Eleanor hesitated. Could she trust him? Could she reveal a part of herself that she had kept hidden for so long? The answer, she knew, could change everything. But the longing in her heart, the desire for someone to truly know her, was almost overwhelming. Mr. Davies, the Pinkerton detective had been quietly gathering evidence. He had interviewed the guard who claimed to recognize Eleanor's eyes, and he had found a local merchant who remembered selling a large quantity of denim fabric to a woman who fit Eleanor's description. He also discovered that Eleanor had been making regular trips to a remote area in the mountains, claiming she was visiting a sick aunt. He presented his findings to Mr. Harding, who was initially skeptical. "My wife, Eleanor? Don't be ridiculous. She wouldn't be involved in something like this." But Mr. Davies was persistent. He showed Mr. Harding the evidence, piece by piece, until the railroad baron could no longer deny the truth. A wave of anger and betrayal washed over him. He felt like a fool, blind to the deception that had been taking place right under his nose. "Prove it," he demanded. "I want irrefutable proof." Mr. Davies proposed a plan. He would set a trap, staging a shipment of gold on a train and waiting to see if the Black Widows would take the bait. Mr. Harding agreed, his desire for revenge outweighing his love for his wife. He was determined to expose Eleanor for who she really was, even if it meant destroying everything they had built together. The net was closing in, and Eleanor was running out of time. Eleanor received word of the planned shipment. One of her informants, a sympathetic railroad worker, had overheard Mr. Harding and Mr. Davies discussing the details. It was a trap, plain and simple. She gathered the Black Widows and laid out the situation. Some of the women were hesitant. It was too risky, they argued. But Eleanor was determined. She couldn't back down now, not when so much was at stake. She devised a new plan, a daring scheme that would turn the trap back on Mr. Harding. They would rob the train as planned, but they would also expose his corruption and his ruthless business practices. They would reveal the truth about how he had cheated landowners, exploited workers, and bribed government officials. But there was a traitor in their midst. Maggie, the former saloon girl, had been secretly working for Mr. Harding, hoping to earn his forgiveness for her past mistakes. She had overheard Eleanor's plan and had relayed the information to Mr. Davies. As the Black Widows prepared for the heist, they were unaware that they were walking into a carefully orchestrated ambush. The train was surrounded by armed guards, and Mr. Davies was waiting, eager to capture the Nightingale and her gang once and for all. The stage was set for a showdown, and the consequences would be devastating. The Black Widows rode towards the train, unaware of the danger that awaited them. As they approached, they were met with a hail of gunfire. The train was heavily guarded, and the element of surprise was gone. Eleanor quickly realized they had been betrayed. She yelled, "Scatter! Everyone scatter!" The women fought bravely, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. Sarah was shot and fell from her horse. Lily was captured. Eleanor managed to escape, but her heart was heavy with grief and guilt. She found refuge in the mountains, alone and wounded. She knew she had to do something, but she didn't know what. Her plan had failed, her friends were in danger, and her double life was about to be exposed. As she sat there, nursing her wounds, she saw Deputy Marshal Cole riding towards her. He dismounted and approached her cautiously, his gun drawn. "Eleanor," he said, his voice filled with a mixture of concern and disappointment. "It's over." He knew. He had known all along. The realization hit Eleanor like a punch to the gut. She had trusted him, and he had betrayed her, just like everyone else in her life. Or had he? There was something in his eyes, a hint of sadness, that made her question everything she thought she knew. The final act was about to begin. Mr. Harding sat in his study, a bottle of whiskey at his side. The Pinkerton detective had confirmed everything. Eleanor was the Nightingale. The woman he loved, the woman he had trusted, had been betraying him all along. He felt a surge of anger, a burning rage that threatened to consume him. How could she do this to him? How could she risk everything for a cause he considered nothing more than foolish idealism? He had given her everything, a life of luxury and comfort. Was that not enough? But beneath the anger, there was also a deep sense of sadness. He had loved Eleanor, truly loved her, in his own way. He had seen her as his equal, his partner, his confidant. Now, he realized that he had never really known her at all. He thought about their life together, the tea parties, the charity events, the quiet evenings spent reading by the fire. It all seemed like a lie now, a carefully constructed facade hiding a web of deceit. He poured himself another glass of whiskey and stared into the flames of the fireplace. He knew what he had to do. He had to bring Eleanor to justice, not just for the train robberies, but for the betrayal of his trust, for the shattering of his dreams. He would show her that actions had consequences, even for the woman he loved. Or perhaps had loved. He wasn't sure anymore. Cole lowered his gun. "Eleanor, I know why you did it. I know about your family, about what Harding's railroad did to them." Eleanor looked at him, her eyes filled with suspicion. "You know? Then why are you here? To arrest me? I'm here because I believe in justice, but I also believe in fairness. Harding isn't the innocent victim he pretends to be." Cole paused. "I can't ignore the law, Eleanor, but I can offer you a choice. Come with me peacefully, and I'll make sure Lily and the others get a fair trial. Or, you can run, but I'll have to come after you." Just then, Mr. Harding arrived, accompanied by Mr. Davies and a group of armed men. "It's over, Eleanor," he said, his voice cold and hard. "There's nowhere left to run." Eleanor looked from Cole to Harding, her heart torn. She had to choose. Her love for Harding, if it ever truly existed, was long gone, replaced by resentment and betrayal. But she couldn't abandon her cause, her friends, or the people who depended on her. She raised her gun, not at Cole, but at Harding. "I'm not going down without a fight," she declared. "This isn't just about robbing trains, Harding. It's about justice for the people you've wronged." A gunfight erupted, the air filled with the sound of gunfire and the smell of gunpowder. Eleanor fought with the ferocity of a cornered animal, determined to protect her friends and her cause, even if it meant sacrificing her own life. The gunfight was fierce but short. Eleanor, with Cole's covert assistance, he deliberately aimed wide several times, managed to disarm Harding and expose the evidence of his corruption to the gathered townspeople who had begun to arrive, drawn by the sound of gunfire. Harding, facing ruin and disgrace, was arrested by Cole. Mr. Davies, seeing the tide turn, slipped away into the crowd. Eleanor, wounded but alive, looked at Cole. "What now?" she asked. Cole smiled sadly. "Now you have a choice. You can stay and face the consequences, and I promise to make sure you and the other widows get a fair hearing. Or you can disappear, start a new life somewhere far away." Eleanor thought of her friends, of the family she had helped, of the cause she had fought for. She also thought of Cole, of the possibility of a life with him, a life based on honesty and trust. In the end, she made her decision. She turned to the crowd and said, "I'm staying. I'm ready to face the music. But I want you all to know that everything I did for you, for our community." She knew that her life would never be the same. But she also knew that she had made the right choice. She had chosen justice over revenge, liberation over oppression, and truth over deceit. And as she walked away with Cole, she felt a sense of peace she had never known before. The Black Widows, though scattered, had planted a seed. The railroad was investigated and forced to make restitution. Though Eleanor's life was forever changed, her actions brought a new era of fairness to the region.